Hello and welcome to an Aura Cloud Plus Training as a Service video snippet. Learn to use and configure Oracle's Fusion Cloud applications in minutes, not hours. Hello and welcome to a sneak peek of Fusion's Purchase Agreements functional work area, or also called an application. So you can see here we're logged in as Calvin Roth in our seated environments. He's a faux buyer, if you will. We're looking at the procurement offering, right? So you can see all the different, what they call applications or functional work areas. What we want to focus on here is providing a sneak peek of purchase agreements. So purchase agreements really are a construct that allows us to enforce contract limits or terms or pricing. So you can see here we're at the overview page. There's a separate video on this, but these are the different, and I think there's probably 8 or 9 of them here, the different infolets that are designed to draw somebody's attention or alert them of some things that they need to address, or potentially provide buckets of transactions, etc., that they might want to click into. Some of these different, as you can see by what I'm doing here, some of the different infolets will allow you to go from a visual display and flipping them to becoming more of a readout. And then if you direct your eye, or if we can direct your eye over here, we have first what we call the task panel. And so you can see for agreements, there's a series of requisitioning tasks. So buyer workbench, or the ability to process recs, import recs or view lines. There is the order or order tasks, manage orders, create orders, generate or import orders. Then obviously important here, since we're in the purchase agreement area, is the purchase, or is the agreement set of tasks, manage them, create them, importing. So these are the creating contracts. Then you have some other different options here, including ASLs. Next up, deliverables. So deliverables are compliance tasks, typically related to sourcing contracts. You can manage those. You have some ability to search through your supply base with these tasks here, research suppliers, manage suppliers, and again, manage ASLs. And then lastly, some administrative tasks here at the bottom that allow you to see buyers, buyer assignment. So procurement agent buyer in Fusion, it's a little confusing, but it is the same term. And so you can see there's different links that you can use here as well. You also have the ability, as you do in most of these, to search through some different fields here. You would also see potentially, if I'm clicking in and out of different agreements, I might see them listed here as prior links. Excuse me, I think I got those two confused. This is my search function. Sometimes you'll see this combined. This is my prior links function. So you can see these are POs that I've jumped into. So it's just kind of nice. You can favorite transactions here, but you can also see recent transactions you've clicked into. So this is obviously the BPA of 52265. And then lastly, you have some version of reports and analytics. And so if you have OTBI queries that have been saved somewhere in your, somewhere for you, you can kind of go into those into a dashboard and take a look at the analytics that have been saved for you as a user. So that's a little bit of a quick sneak peek. And lastly, if I want, because sometimes people want to see this, let's go ahead and quickly show the main create agreement page. So like I talked about before, agreements are really a software construct to enforce, most often, contracts. So if I'm going to create an agreement, I need to pick a style, which is most often a blanket. And then beyond that, there are other options, maybe a contract purchase agreement, right? Depending on whether you have lines or not. And then you may select a business unit. You do not have to, but you could select the supplier here. So if I wanted to say this particular agreement, I want to create for Lee Supplies, notice that I just put a partial description of the supplier and tabbed out. If there was more than one Lee, it would have given me that option. So there's the partial searchability. And then I'm going to create my agreement. And so this takes the data that I've entered here. It brings up the entire agreement page with 2 tabs, maybe 3, and it allows the user, most often a buyer, to put the information required to create that agreement in. So we'll give it just a second here, and Fusion will open our page. Okay, so here we are. So you can see here, it took the next number. Status is currently incomplete. We haven't saved it. We've got a procurement BU. It brought our supplier in. And if we were going to communicate this agreement, we would communicate it to Lee. If we wanted to say, oh, we want to send this particular agreement to a bulk address, we could do so, adding the bulk email address sales@whoever, for example, here, if we wanted to do so. We then see some of the start and end date or some of the fields. Notice if you have an asterisk here, these are required fields here. All right, so then you may pick an agreed amount. Let's say we have $1,000. We don't need these. Very important here though is your description, because you may have hundreds of agreements and those agreements are searched for in this manner. Next up, master contract. So this is a contract of a particular type and you're allowed to associate this particular transaction to a contract, in this case, of a particular type for that same vendor, Lee Supplies. We don't need to do that, but you can see it here. Next, you can see there's terms, right? So these different terms here. If I wanted to create notes and attachments, I could do so here. If I wanted to structure or declare my attachment to go to someone, I could do so here and attach my document in that manner. So let's close this. We'll scroll down a little bit. If I have lines, right? So this is a blanket. It has or must have lines, which is what you see down here. And I would add those lines by clicking here. Next, the controls. So if I have one line for a left-handed smoke shifter, I then have to say which rec BUs can get at or order against this agreement. I have some order processing details, which are pretty critical when you make the decision of how baby approved rec gets to PO. And then I've got a series of notification controls here on the bottom, which can, but do not have to, relate to contract negotiation controls. Lastly, you have the ability, although we see this less and less, to author contract terms here as part of the agreement. Note those are not stored in the contracts tables, and you should have a solid understanding, particularly if you are using or your deployment is using contracts, which tool to use and why. So that just is a quick overview of the agreements functional work area and a sneak peek at the application creating a simple transaction. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching.